This is Commander Shepard. You're listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak! I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame best party!
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I am not alone as I once again trek through the interesting world of geek media, pop culture, news assimilation, and beyond. I'm joined by my friend over in Kitchener, my hetero life mate, virtually.
Alex, the producer, you keep emphasizing hetero life mate. Be honest, we probably would have been life mates, hetero or not.
Yeah, it's true. Honestly, hey, love knows no bounds. So yes, guys, we are back here once again here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Today is an important day for it is Indigenous Veterans Day here in Canada. So if you happen to be Indigenous like me, this is celebrating the contributions of those who served within the Canadian military across all the branches, all the different conflicts that have happened. So I've actually seen some really cool beadwork poppies today.
I was going to say, do you know, is this a newer, is this something that was made specifically to be separate from Remembrance Day? Because it's only a few days away. I know Remembrance Day was initially made to commemorate World War I veterans.
Yeah, for the armistice.
But I guess this is for First Nations veterans of all wars.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah. This is the first year I remember it seeing trending on Twitter, which I thought was actually kind of nice.
Makes sense. I know it's been around for a while. It's obviously much more in the public eye because of the events of the last 12 months anyway.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, folks, this week is going to be Remembrance Day. My wife goes into surgery on Thursday morning, so wish her well. I definitely hope that goes well for her. And speaking of that, as we most often do here on the show, we typically talk about what has been going on in our personal lives during the week. So this week was a little bit different for me, in the fact that I went to my second Sacred Fire ceremony here in Guelph. And then you may have caught this on Facebook and Twitter, more Twitter more than anywhere else. I only let personal friends on my Facebook now. And it was cool. I met a bunch of people from the community down here, including one of the local city councilors, who's one of the firekeepers down here. I met a local artist named Peter, who turns out he knows the friend of mine, Catherine, who works with the 60 Scoop group that I've been advocating with for the last year and change. And then I did the smudging, is where you inhale the sage, you offer tobacco and sage to the sacred fire, you make a prayer to Creator, and you walk around a circle, or in my case, drive. This ceremony was a little bit different because Blair did it with me. So she did it herself.
So what you're saying, it's all people are welcome to join,
yes,
if they'd like to participate or at least observe?
As far as I know, yes. The only thing is they ask is when you're in the area, you don't take pictures. I took a picture of the sign outside the area, so as far as I know, that's okay.
And I get that. It's they don't want it either to be used in mocking or anything else, or you never know. Like the idea that it's supposed to be
sacred.
You're not going to a church or a synagogue or a temple, and you're not just pulling out your camera and taking pictures while people pray.
Yeah,
it's the same idea.
Yeah, there were couple people there with traditional drums, and they were drumming, and there was a little bit of singing. So that was really cool. And then this part kind of surprised me. This guy named Peter approached me, and we talked for probably about 45 minutes. And he told me, I had a feeling I should talk to you. Just feel a really good vibe and energy, a very welcoming energy coming off you. And just after I finished that conversation with Peter, this young person approached me, and I was like, hey, how's it going? Pleased to meet you. I'm new to the area. I'm also the rep for the local party's indigenous population. Is there anything I can do to help you? And they were like, yeah, actually. And we exchanged emails and phone numbers, and hopefully I can give them a hand. They were having some trouble with like housing, and I'm like, you let me know what I can advocate for, and if I can help you, I definitely will. So that felt nice to get involved with my community. So when I did my sacred fire prayer, I prayed for Blair for success in her surgery and beyond. And I also prayed for a friend of ours who's going through some pretty difficult things right now. And I won't go too much more into it than that. I said I pray for mercy and guidance during this time, because I kind of look at it. I've got everything I need. I've got a roof over my head. I've got food in my stomach. I've got all the entertainment I could want. I don't want for much. But there are others in my life that I think could use more help than what is currently being given. So hopefully that's a little bit of positive energy being put back into the universe. Other than that, finally for me, I started watching some anime for the first time in forever. That's just for me. I started watching Dragon Ball Super. I've been using my Funimation Press account that I've had for years, but I've only really used on and off sporadically. And
be prepared for some ups, some really low lows, and then it's ending on a pretty high note.
Yeah, I'm like, I really like what I see. I'm about 22 episodes deep into it now. Frieza just got resurrected.
You saw the movies, right?
Yes, I've seen the movies. So
the movie is what I believe kicked off that, and then they retold the Frieza movie. Like it was retold and expanded as the first season of that show. And then I think the second movie is tied into the show. But like my old roommate was a super fan. Like we're talking watching, like couldn't wait for the dub, so would watch was it Crunchyroll or whatever subtitle versions. And so I watched a bit and I caught up. I think I watched the last arc with one of the big tournaments, and it was pretty good. There were some parts where you could tell like they had 2 or 3 studios running that show at a time. You will start to notice about halfway through that every 3rd or 4th episode is like, why is this lower quality? They started farming out some animation to Korea for some of it. It was kind of a Transformers season 3 sort of situation. So there are some episodes that look better than others, but that first run until I think the second movie is like high quality stuff. And then of course the final arc is like really high quality when they weren't worried about, like they would poach people from the team to go work on the movies. Because I think there's 3 movies, right?
There's Resurrection F, Battle of the Gods, and then Super Broly or something.
Yeah, and those took a lot of the key animators away from them. Like, it's rare that a studio works on multiple episodes and a movie simultaneously, but that's what they were doing. They would have 3 or 4 episodes in production at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's Dragon Ball. So we're talking insanity when it comes to the amount of viewers. So they're like, we got to keep pumping them out. So I think you're going to have fun because there's going to be some filler episodes, but I don't think it's quite as bad as what we remember growing up with Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. I've also been playing a lot of Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse 2. It was the last game I reviewed for Rad many, many, many years ago. And it's been fun to come back to it after like 4 or 5 years, because it's a completely different game. It's still getting DLC. It's still getting updates. And it's pretty fun.
Which is kind of amazing considering they've also had since then, what was the
Dragon
game
Ball
they had?
Kakarot. They've had Dragon Ball Z Fighters.
And there was another one in there, wasn't there?
Dragon Ball, I think it's called Superheroes or Heroes. It's like a card game or something.
Something like that. Like, there was at least, because that game was what, 2017?
2016, I think, actually.
Okay. Yeah, and I remember it being decent. Are you playing it on the Switch or the PlayStation?
PlayStation. Although the Switch version does have some exclusive content, but you know what? I prefer my PlayStation 4 controller, my PlayStation 5.
And
controller.
I imagine the graphics, like it would be a downgrade if you went, like, even though it's a cartoony look. I did remember I reviewed a copy of Fighters on the Switch, and I couldn't tell the difference between that and the console, like the big console version. And that's because like they were wizards. I don't know how they did it. Like sometimes companies can do it. It's just, and then sometimes you end up with something that's like 5 frames per second, right? I think the other game was I remember there was like a Game Boy game. It was Fusions or something came out around the same time. I think we're probably due for another new Dragon Ball Z.
There is rumors of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3 maybe next year, but the community doesn't know because we are still getting DLC. We just got I think it's Kefla or Kale, who's like the Super Saiyan. She's like the female version of Broly, I think. I haven't gotten that far in the show.
I know what I was thinking. It was Jump Force that came out.
Yeah, and that game should have been a lot cooler than what it was.
Yeah, that's the one that came out in between that I was confused about. I'm like, no, that's the one that was 2019.
Yeah. So what about you? What have you been up to over the last week or so?
Well, I was catching up on some stuff for review. Like I keep saying that, but there is a bunch of movies and stuff I got. Like I got a 12 movie set of Randolph Scott, the old Western star from the 40s and 50s. Well, 12 movies of his got remastered into Blu-ray, so I'm slowly working my way through that. As far as games go, I played in like one day the new Call of Duty game. Thoughts on that forthcoming as we have more stuff to dive into with it. Funny thing is, you were talking about how you were interested in maybe playing the Stick of Truth again, the South Park game.
Yeah, I'm actually going to purchase that after the show tonight, actually.
Well, right after we had that discussion while we were playing Call of Duty, I ended up downloading my copy because I remember I got it for free as part of, I think, a PlayStation Plus or maybe a Humble Bundle deal. And I downloaded it and beat it in one sitting because it only takes about 10 or 11 hours or so to beat it. When you play it on easy, there's no need. I didn't have to grind. It just naturally, like, they did some quality of life stuff to it compared to the PS3 version, and it feels like it moves faster. I think you just get a little more experience. Things cost a little less. I remember the crazy katana, the most powerful weapon in the game, costing like $150 of the in-game currency, and then I think it's $50 in this version.
Oh, wow.
And so once you get that, you're doing like 11,000 damage per hit. And you're basically killing everybody in one hit. So I was like, yeah. And it's still just as funny today as it was before. I did play, I tried to get as many trophies as I could because the PS3 trophies didn't carry forward to the PS4. And that was fun. I might go back and do the Fractured Butthole, but separately. I don't own that digitally. I had that physical back in the day. Digitally, it's $70, or for $30 you can get a package that has both Stick of Truth and that on sale, but it's no point in me paying that because I already own one of the copies of the game. So I might just track down a used physical copy at like The Beat Goes On or something if I want to play through it. But there have been rumors, and you had mentioned that they are working on a third game. And the question will be, do they use, like, they can't use Obsidian because they work for Microsoft now. I wonder if they're going to be Ubisoft, like if we see that show up at like E3 again, or if they go with another studio altogether for the third game.
I would hope they would stick with what's worked.
Well, it's either that, or do they have enough clout to have another studio go, we want to have we want to take a shake at it, like another one that's based on, or do they have enough money now that they can just hire people to make it themselves? Similar engine or whatever, like, there's enough people that are being poached away that maybe don't want to work for EA or Activision, Blizzard, or even Ubisoft, that they could just go, hey, one of these new studios that's being built out of the remnants of some of these companies, maybe they want to make their own. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Other than that, there's been some stuff showing up that for consideration for our gift guide, which is about a month away now, right?
Oh, God, don't remind me.
One thing showed up that I'm going to have to basically
solder.
I'm going to have to break out my technical chops that I have not pretty much ever used or haven't used in probably 15 years and put together. It's a STEM kit, STEM being science, technology, engineering, mathematics, I believe.
Yep.
That is the focus that was in school for kids learning that I believe when I was finishing high school, that was just being talked about as the new thing for the States. Now I think it's integrated pretty much North America. That's like the focus of a lot of public schools. And it is a kit from Circuit Mess, which is a company out of Croatia, to put together your own little Game Boy style, like Game Boy Micro, Game Boy Advance style handheld gaming system that, one, you solder together yourself. They give you the whole kit. They even give you the soldering equipment. And then it also has some games programmed onto it, and it has some instructions on how to code your first games. And it comes with things like Brick Breaker and Snake and Space Invaders, or a facsimile of it included. And then apparently it's easy enough that like a 9-year-old could make the game. So I'm assuming it's something similar to how that Garage Builder game thing for the Nintendo was, where it's probably got built-in commands on the program on the computer, and you just sort of drag and drop them and type a few little things in. But it'll be interesting to see if it's all put together. Apparently, on 3 AAA batteries, you're getting close to like a dozen hours or more of play on there, which is a heck of a lot more than I remember getting out of the Game Boy.
Yeah, I think you'd maybe get like maybe 5 hours out of like four double A's back in the day, or was it 3? I don't know.
Yeah, and
that
I
thing
know that
8 batteries.
I know that this company is also working on, and they've got some prototypes out of a similar version that has a built-in or an attachable lithium battery, and that apparently gets you like 20 hours or more of play on a single charge. But I believe for international distribution, they're shipping the one that has the battery compartment for 3 AAA batteries, because I don't think a lot of places realize how expensive and how dangerous it can be to fly lithium batteries internationally. There's certain laws you have to do. It has to be in, I think lithium batteries have to be shipped on a boat. I don't think they're allowed to be
because
up in the air.
Yeah, there's some kind of weird restriction because air pressure can change it.
It can puncture them and then they go boom.
Yeah,
so
and that's very bad.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, so I'm like, how did this get here in 3 days after shipment? And I was like, oh, it's because they shipped the one that has AAA batteries separate, which makes sense because I believe AAA's alkaline batteries can ship like regular. It's just lithiums and nickel cadmium. The rechargeable batteries they don't like to ship. So I'll be checking that out over the next week or two, putting it together and making sure it doesn't break. Because it says easy enough for a 9-year-old, but that's a 9-year-old. It's a 9-year-old with supervision. I might have to go, Dad, stay in the room with me and tell me when I break something. But no, in reality is it should be a simple enough project. And depending if I can find my my little head-mounted camera, I might film myself doing it and put it on the website.
That might actually be kind of fun.
Might be a fun project. I'll see about doing that. And if not, maybe I can hook up my webcam and just do a little time lapse of me, and you can see how easy or how much trouble I have. In reality, I'm willing to bet most 9-year-olds probably do a better job than I do. But still, that's going to be interesting to check out. There's other things coming. I've been working on Riders Republic, which I'll have a review sometime this week, and as well as some other smaller games, and just a lot of emails and back and forth, because as we're talking with Gift Guide coming really close and international shipping being a little better this year than it was last year, there should be some products coming in from different companies that might make the deadline, and if not, they show up as a late last minute gift guide or something.
Yeah, we will have to figure it out. So anyway, folks, we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. Some stuff in the news, some people not returning for some big projects, some stuff that was released a little bit early, why you shouldn't jump into certain bodies of water, and some other cool stuff. As for reviews, we're going to start things off by going to Washington Heights, and that's going to be a 4K movie coming to us from Warner Brothers that is in the Heights. We're also going to be taking a look at something that you may want to consider for the holidays yourself. That's going to be coming to us from Drinkmate. And then finally, it's that time of year for our American friends. Thanksgiving is coming up, so that usually means it's time to gather around and play some video games, and we're going to be taking a look at the latest entry in the Jackbox franchise on the PlayStation 5. So without any further ado, let's head off to Washington Heights, and this is In the Heights from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment.
What does sueñito mean?
Sueñito. It means little dream.
That's it? No story?
All right, everybody sit down. It's a story of a block that was disappearing. In un barrio called Washington Heights. The streets were made of music.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk to you about one of the latest things we got for review from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm talking about the 4K Ultra HD plus Blu-ray and digital code of In the Heights, once again by Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. So I knew remarkably little about this movie going in. I'd heard it was done by the same guy who did Hamilton, but it really wasn't on my radar at all. However, I found myself more attracted to musicals, especially considering I've seen some really good ones in the last couple years, such as Bohemian Rhapsody and my favorite so far, Rocket Man. Though this may have just edged out Rocket Man. So this story, it's about a Latinx community in New York City in the place called Washington Heights. So it's Uznavi, Benny, Vanessa, and I think Nina. And they all have their own struggles. One of them wants to move away from the country to maybe go after his late father's business. Another one has a dreaming of getting out of the city and just doing more with their life. And another girl comes home from going to school out on the West Coast where she experienced racism, so much so that they actually searched her when a white girl accused her of stealing something. This movie hit surprisingly close to home, and allow me to explain what I mean by that. It's a movie about community and acknowledging your roots and being proud of those roots. And that's something that I very much struggle with because I come from not a great place and I don't have a lot of pride about it. But I see other people in my friend circle who are very proud of where they come from, but they acknowledge the problems that do exist there. And I don't know, just seeing Usnavi go through his emotional journey through this really kind of put things in perspective for me, and that was an unexpected side effect of this movie. Maybe it was just the emotional state that I was in, but I don't know. To talk about the presentation of this movie, I watched it in 4K, and I watched multiple numbers in Blu-ray standard definition, which is the standard now. It looks really nice. The 4K obviously is the way to go. The colors really pop. Everything is really rich and vivid. Blacks look really good. I watched this on a 5.1 surround sound system. Sounds incredible. I really wanted to crank up a couple of these songs so loud. So that should tell you about the intensity of some of these. In terms of special features, on both discs, there is an option to view the musical numbers, but the Blu-ray has more, kind of. You do get 2 sing-alongs where they put the words on the screen for you. I think it's In the Heights and 96,000 are the 2 songs, and then you get the musical numbers again, and then you get like a 45-minute or so making of, which was really good. Like, one of the cool things I learned is that most of the people here on the backing tracks are people who've been in the musical themselves, either on Broadway or as part of the traveling show, which I thought was really cool. Also, the guy that plays Benny is Dr. Dre from Straight Outta Compton. And I think he was in like 24 Legacy or something, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if that's the same guy. But this was an unexpected joy. So much so, like, it tugs at the right emotional nerves, like with the story, and maybe I identify a little too much with like certain characters' feelings and stuff like that. But no, this was pure fun. I can't think of a better feel-good movie I've seen in a really long time. So, In the Heights, maybe a little bare bones in terms of special features, but if you love musicals, if you loved Hamilton, even if you didn't, if you liked Rocket Man, check this out. This was really, really good. I like the fact that musicals are making this big comeback right now. They're really putting the money behind them. And this came out at the right time, I think, because this movie has a long gestation period. Like, they'll explain that in the special features. But anyway, no, seriously, I recommend In the Heights from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment 120%.
It's a wonderful life that I've known. Merry Christmas, y'all. Building alone, I'm home. I brother, that ain't a stoop, that's your throne. Long after your birds have all flown, I'm home. With the coffee's non-stop and I drop this hip hop in my mom and pop shop, I'm home. But people come, people go. Let me show all of these people what I know. There's no place like home.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. All right, so let's kick things off by talking about a game that we actually played a lot last month. We did a pretty in-depth review of Far Cry 6 from Ubisoft, and some of the DLC has begun to drop for that game, though it wasn't supposed to, as it turns out. So this story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com, and I do have some first-hand experience with this particular story. Ubisoft pulls Far Cry 6 mission released early by quote-unquote accident. The mission, called Danny and Danny versus Everybody, will come back to the game at a later date. So Far Cry 6 has only been out for a month now, and the game is already doling out some downloadable content, but not intentionally. Ubisoft recently admitted it had pushed out a free DLC mission with star Danny Trejo before it was slated to arrive in December. Now, a new update on consoles, the publisher has pulled the mission from the game, saying it was accidentally released too early. The mission sees Danny Trejo putting together some tacos, because this is a shooty bang bang game. You must defend Trejo from some quote unquote jerks and the Cuban government as he cooks. It's one of the 3 crossover missions as part of Far Cry 6's roadmap. It launches next month, with the other 2 being Rambo and Stranger Things coming in February and March 22nd or March 2022 respectively. As part of title update number 2, an Ubisoft community manager under the handle of Ubiquality said the Danny and Danny versus Everybody mission came too soon. The company removed it so players can check out the final mission in the future. Suggesting that players running right now, like this aforementioned kind of YouTuber that I follow, his name's Jor Raptor, may not be the exact version Ubisoft intends to add to the game. And then basically it just adds a bunch of quality of life missions and everything. Improvements. So what the Danny versus Everybody mission was, is you get a call from Juan and he says, "Hey, Danny Trejo needs your help." And your character, Danny Rojas, either be it a boy or a girl, I was the girl in this case, is like, "Danny, as in fucking Machete." He's like, "Yeah, I used to drink him under the table. We're old friends. Can you go help him?" So you go to this abandoned alligator farm, and he finds out that the Yarn government has confiscated his taco truck, and you have to gather meat, salsa, and pineapples to make his super secret salsa tacos. And you get all these people coming in from all these angles. Eventually a helicopter shows up at one point, but it's mostly this official, which I don't think you ever fight, but he's like, "Get me those fucking tacos." And you fight like wave after wave of guys for like 5 minutes. And then you are rewarded with his bike from the movies, though not exactly. You get a version that has a minigun on the sidecar. Now, the mission is busted, at least in the version I played, because it turns out, unless you happen to be online at that very specific time, most people didn't get this mission because it was yanked after like a day or so. So once you got that bike, normally you'd be able to select it from your rides and you'd be able to recall it. There's no way to save it. So what instead you got was like $10,000 in the pesos. But at the end game, which is where I am, money's virtually useless. So cool, I guess. There's like other small quality of life improvements. There's going to be a mission where you can do with the cab driver, which are typically meant to be the game's raids. You can do one with Danny Trejo, but it hasn't launched yet, obviously. And you're supposed to deliver the tacos, but the mission's bugged and it says you've captured an F&D base, which you clearly haven't done. So it's busted. It's fun. I mean, Danny Trejo is pretty amusing. I hope you get a new weapon. I hope you get to keep his bike, and I hope you get some other shit out of it. But it's interesting from a technical standpoint. This mission was easily able to push out the players across all platforms,
which means that
it's live somewhere.
I'm not believing the narrative that it came out early. I believe it. You're telling me that people are that dumb within the company that they didn't see that there was an unfinished product and they just pressed go. Something tells me
I have seen this happen before.
I've seen where they've gotten a date mixed up. For instance, like where they, you know how there's a different standard in Europe than there is in Canada for dating systems, like as in how you rate down. Some people will have the day of the month, and then the year written. But in Europe, it might be the other way around. It might be month, day, year. It's very possible that instead of let's say the 4th of November, so 4/11, whatever it's supposed to come out, it could have been April 11th that something was meant to come out, right? And they got the month and the day wrong. I have seen that happen where an automated, but at the same time, how is this in the pipeline to release?
I think I'm probably going to be vastly wrong on this, but I seem to remember way back in the day, at least for the Xbox framework, there's an underlying network on Xbox Live that developers can access and share kind of resources and shit, right? I'm wondering if this was a simple case of somebody pushing the wrong update and hitting the wrong drop-down menu.
You know what I mean? But to every console?
That's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Like,
I wonder,
did somebody take something that was labeled beta and then label it finished and then put it in the wrong folder, and then their automated system pushed it out?
That's kind of what I think would happen. Like, I think this boils down to simple human error. And I don't see it as anything, like you're going to be fired for this, although I would imagine severe reprimands.
No, somebody's going to get fired for this. Like this is somebody's entire job is to be in control of the scheduling.
And it sucks, though, because the mission itself, it's fun, if not very interesting. So I hope you get more missions with Trejo than just the black market mission and the taco delivery.
What I worry about is
because the Voss DLC has already been kind of leaked.
It's not just that. Like I'm waiting for it. It's just that they might fire somebody over this out of precedent. Because what happens? You know how game companies are, and especially companies like Ubisoft and some of these companies who've been under criticism for some of their dude bro culture within the company.
Mm-hmm.
Beta versions that are never meant to be seen by anybody, not even the regular testing audience, except for their own internal tests, a lot of times will have humor and like racist, bigoted things in there, or ridiculous in jokes that, if seen out of context, could be very, very bad. But amongst the 3 or 4 people that coded it, could be an in joke that it would automatically get removed before being sent out for final testing. We don't know. Like, obviously that didn't happen here, but somebody at Ubisoft could go, do you realize what could have been in there?
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
You're fucking fired, because for all you know, you could have had a joke in here about one of the bosses that just got in trouble, and you could have said something to make it even worse, or you could have put a joke in there, like you could have been like, I don't know, let's say Ubisoft or somebody who's working on a Simpsons game, they could have made a joke about Marge Simpson in an orgy or something, and then Disney would be furious with them for leaving the joke in.
Yeah, like I said, I think because the version that I played, they say it's not finished. From a mechanical standpoint, it's done. It just needs a few of its trigger events fixed.
It sounds like some of the pointer trigger events aren't working right. Which again, it sounds like it's the final version that would go to the QA testers. So
Yeah.
this isn't a case of a lot of the worst case scenario, which is what I mentioned, which has happened, where companies have pushed out a release that had stuff in there that really should not have been there. For instance, remember the hot coffee in Grand Theft Auto?
Yep.
That whole thing, it was only discovered because they forgot to remove the final code before they pressed the discs, and then people were tinkering around with hex editors and Game Shark and found out that they left the entire blowjob simulator into the game, and those discs had to be pulled entirely for free. Like you could as a parent take it to the store and replace your disc for free because the game got reassessed as an adults only game.
I seem to vaguely remember that.
Oh, it was a big deal because everybody had a Game Shark, and it was in the early era of like before Web 2.0. It was being shared everywhere. Here's the code to do the hot coffee blowjob mission, and there were kids playing it. So, that's in an era where a screw up like that would meant that it was on a press disc, and it could cost your company a lot of money in having to replace the discs. And that used to happen more often than you'd figure because people didn't realize people were just going to find these things. Nowadays, the fear is, with the internet being what it is, once something is out there, it is out there. So they got to be careful. So I could see somebody getting fired. I could also see if they do a root cause analysis and determine that, it was just a catastrophe of little bits of fuck ups here and there, that it won't happen again. And luckily in this case, as you said, it was a fun thing that they put out. It's just frustrating that they pulled it because it wasn't complete.
Yeah. So I guess we will wait and see what happens when we eventually bring back Danny Trejo and fight side by side in Yara.
I kind of wish that it's not just his machete character stuff. I would hope that there'd be more references to other stuff he did, like Con Air or other memorable characters. Like, I guess he technically plays Machete in the Spy Kids movies as well.
They do reference Spy Kids a bunch of times, actually.
Okay, that which makes sense because he's a variation. Like at one point, it's confirmed that he is Machete, and then in some cases they try to make it sound like he's not.
Mm-hmm. It's a surprisingly witty dialogue. I played it with the female Danny, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Or his character in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Johnny Depp asks him, "Are you a Mexican or a Mexicant?" "I'm a Mexican." God, that movie's so awesome and lame.
So this next story, it's a bit of a downer. So I'm just going to kind of preface this with this. So the story comes courtesy of Deadline. Emilio Estevez is not returning to the Mighty Ducks Game Changers for season 2. This is an exclusive story. So the Mighty Ducks franchise will continue without Gordon Bombay, Emilio Estevez, who reprised his role from the 1992 movie, its 1994 and 96 sequels, in season 1 of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers. He will not be back for the Disney Plus series upcoming second season, I have learned. I hear that Disney Television Studios ABC Signature, which produces the hockey-themed sequel series, made the decision to not pick up Estevez's option for season 2 after weeks of back and forth with his team over the show's COVID vaccination requirement. Reps for the studio and Estevez declined to comment. Heading into season 2, the Mighty Ducks Game Changers...
Is this the case of him not wanting to be vaccinated?
That's kind of what I'm reading.
Which is a little different considering, his brother's crazy, but he was always viewed as a pretty moderate person.
So heading into season 2, the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, like many Disney TV studio series, has adopted a mandatory vaccination policy for the cast and crew in Zone A, which has included an option in most recent return to work agreements between the Hollywood studios and the major unions. Zone A includes all actors and crew members who come in direct contact with them. According to sources, Estevez, through his reps, has declined to provide assurances that he would comply with the policy, with the two sides at an impasse as the season 2 scripts were being written and the planned early 2022 start of production was looming. I hear the studio made the call to not exercise the actor's option, and the scripts will be adjusted to continue the story without the character. Meanwhile, sources close to Estevez indicate that creative differences may have played a part or may have played a role in his exit. While not a blanket policy yet, the Zone A vaccination mandate has emerged as an industry standard, with its adoption footprint steadily expanding.
You know what?
What?
Before you go further into that, it may not be a case of him being an anti-vaxxer. It may be a case of he didn't like this. I haven't seen the show, but it may be a case of he really didn't like it, and his contract may have stated that he had an option, but pretty much an automatic renewal barring any major issues. He may be using this as, because he's not saying he's not vaccinated, he's just saying he didn't want to deal with it. This may be an out for him to get out of his contract.
Maybe. I mean, they kept his involvement pretty under wraps for a while until I think the promos came out showing him.
Yeah.
And honestly, he's a really good part in the series, but I think the main star, Lauren Graham from the Gilmore Girls, she's strong enough to hold it.
Well, not to mention, he's been more of a director the last 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of sad because in Game Changer season 1, sorry folks, it's been
out long enough now.
Yeah, it seems to indicate that he wants to be more involved in their lives. There's a storyline set up, there's a precedent set up where things could go further on, and there's an absentee father storyline with the characters, and Estevez's character could very easily fit the new role of being the new kind of surrogate father.
Now is this better made and less cringy than a lot of the other revivals that have come out, like Saved by the Bell?
Yes, heads and shoulders above, which Saved by the Bell goes into its second season later on this month. I just recently found out, which that series got better in its back half. Like the first 4 episodes are not good at all. After that, it does get progressively better, but not by much.
Like I forgot that Full House had a remake too. Like it
lasted for 5 seasons.
I think it's the longest running sitcom on Netflix, which is interesting because they seem to cancel a lot of things early. But again, like I'm seeing this as it's one of 2 situations. 1, he's an anti-vaxxer, or 2, he's using it as an out because as a free out where he doesn't get penalized, because some of the contracts may state if you want to leave the project ahead of time, it's going to cost you something financial specific with it. Whereas if there's a conflict on the contract, they'll just write him off.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, I want to believe he's not that much of an idiot, but if I've learned anything in the 2 years that COVID's been around, his dad's vaccinated. He has to be to work in Hollywood at his age. Yeah.
And I don't know. We know, I'm willing to bet that Charlie Sheen's vaccinated. I don't know, but his crazy ass, who you'd think would be the anti-vaxxer, might be. I mean, that dude's like, stick anything in my veins, right? So,
yeah, who knows?
It would be interesting because that's a family dynasty, and that's the kind of shit that could tear a family apart.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to know what conversations have happened behind closed doors. So hopefully we'll see a trailer. My guess is probably by next summer at Comic-Con we'll see something.
So do you suggest that I sit back and actually watch it? And
I think so. I think it's a good series, especially once you hit episode 3 or 4. You start to see where things are headed. I
skipped it on the principle that I figured it was going to be like a lot of the other revivals.
No, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Me and Blair, you used to watch it every morning that it was released.
Okay.
So it was appointment viewing for us.
It was a weekly thing. Like they were dropping it week by week and not just all at once, eh?
Yep.
So, I mean, okay, I'll give that a watch. And the other thing that has me worried, but that I think has potential to be amazing, is the 70s Show sequel.
I hope so.
So, again, hopefully that if this is an indication, maybe we get more higher quality revivals.
I hope so. So our last story this week comes to us courtesy of Variety, and this one's a little wordy, but follow me through here, folks, because I think this is definitely worth discussing, especially since we're talking about streaming shows. Peacock is struggling to take flight amid low demand for its TV originals. Peacock has a serial TV problem and is counting on a pandemic delayed pipeline of programming to help overcome it. More than a year after its launch, NBC Universal streaming service lacks the buzzy original TV shows of its rivals, or even the fan-friendly Star Trek offerings of Paramount Plus. The Viacom CBS service, formerly known as CBS All Access. And while top brass praised Peacock as heading in the right direction during Comcast's earnings call with Wall Street analysts last week, the lack of breakthrough hits considered key to streamer growth suggests the service has much work to do before it becomes truly competitive with its rivals. Craig Moffat, co-founder of Moffat Nathanson, says the investment community has concluded that Peacock simply is not on a trajectory to become one of the major streaming services, and that they're going to have to do something dramatic if they're going to change that narrative. He adds, I don't think that Comcast has shown the willingness to invest in that business at anything like the scale that Disney or Netflix is doing. Long term,
or to be honest, Warner, because of how
HBO Max,
because of them. Yeah, sure, you can say what you want about DC, but when they merged it all together, HBO Max is like, Apple has put in more effort, significantly more effort than Peacock, but like,
and nobody talks about those shows except really dedicated communities,
except me.
Yeah, except you,
so
with
good.
like
They're so
with like
good
with like Foundation and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, and For All Mankind, like, they're killing it. It's because it's all genre shows, I think, that, and they're not getting as much praise. Also, it's Apple. People don't think of them really when they think of original content, but it's pretty much like, I guess people don't talk about Warner because they've owned HBO now for 20 some odd years. Mm-hmm. So HBO, the main channel, still has its own individual programming, not a ton, that is pretty much exclusive, but you're going to see in the next few years, it's basically going to be a battle between Disney, Warner, and anybody else that's trying to go up against them, because even Netflix has a ton of shows, but they don't seem to be catching on the way they used to.
So according to the article, long-term, Moffat believes that NBC Universal will have to merge with another major company the way Discovery did with Warner Media, which, by the way, is fantastic because Discovery Plus is available in Canada. I subscribed last week. Although there's been talk of Comcast merging or spinning off.
Is it separate from like Crave?
Yes.
Because HBO Max is only available through Crave.
Yeah, well, I'm talking Disney Plus. So I get, or not Disney Plus, Discovery Plus.
Because Discovery is part of HBO Max in the States.
Yeah, up here you get a surprising amount of content.
So they separated them.
Yeah,
which I guess
like
is smart.
20 channels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It's ridiculous. For $5 a month, totally worth it.
Okay, I'll have to look into that then.
Yeah, so although there's been talk of Comcast merging or spinning off assets to combine with Viacom CBS, that could be tricky given their respective network and station group holdings. For now, the two have joined forces to distribute streaming offerings in international markets. He goes on to say, I think most observers have concluded that there's going to be a merger at some point, Moffat says. Short term, NBC will air the pilot of Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol, based on the author's best-selling prequel to The Da Vinci Code, next week in a bid to boost viewership. Dr. Death, a starry-eyed adaptation of the podcast of the same name, is Peacock's most popular original series this year, according to TV Vision Research, easily outpacing offerings such as Rutherford Falls, Girls 5 Eva, The Lost Symbol on the service. Dr. Death garnered muted buzz with its July bow, while The Lost Symbol has barely made a ripple since its September 16th debut. You would think...
I can tell you this much. I have seen Brave New World. I watched it with my brother.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty well done. Extremely disappointed that they canceled it right away.
Yeah, that's
they
what I've
left
heard.
it on a cliffhanger. And it's like, why? This was a well-made show. The star of that show was the guy who played Han Solo in the Solo movie.
Oh, Aaron something or other?
And he's really good. I mean,
yeah,
he was
a great guy.
It was well put together. Dr. Death, watched that with my family. Really good.
Although it's weird, they don't. According to this article, Peacock has decided not to release any numbers for that show specifically.
It had 1 million watch it the first episode, and they said nothing else after that.
Now,
then again, that 1 million could have been in Canada even, because I think I remember reading the numbers in Canada. So
now,
Maybe it's really low in the States. Maybe it's like 2 million or something, which is terrible for them.
I was just kind of looking here just because I'm gonna skip over the rest of this article because it's really wordy. But this is important to note. So according to Parrot Analytics, which estimates consumer demand based on data from multiple sources, including Google searches, social media services, blogs, video platforms, piracy, Peacock, mustered only 1.6% of digital original demand share in the U.S. during the third quarter, a slight improvement from the 1.4% share it drew during its prior quarter. Paramount Plus eked out 3.9%, while HBO Max, Apple TV, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus ranged from 6.1% to 8.9%, while Netflix dominated with 43.7%.
So basically, well, because Netflix has one advantage in that
it's been around the longest.
Even in rural communities, their bandwidth scaling is better than anybody else. Sure, they can deliver you a 240 or 360p image, which will look like dog shit to us, but in an area where you might get 1 meg service, it works. Everybody else sort of requires a minimum of 720p. They don't really have most of them don't have standard def streaming. They only have HD streaming.
I found out recently that Disney Plus doesn't have a quality option, but it'll stream what fits your connection. When I was in the hospital, for example, watching stuff on Disney Plus sucked, but Netflix was more reliable 9 times out of 10.
Because Netflix you can select. Actually, there is an option, but it's only on PC. You can go in and say save bandwidth, but it doesn't give you the option on any apps. And that's the problem with most of them. Whereas Netflix, a lot of times, will let you determine it based on what app you're using. If you play it on a phone, for instance, it'll give you the option for like 360p. Whereas you don't even normally get that on a bigger screen. So they are more. I mean, they've got 7 years longer in the game. Like they're like YouTube, right? Like YouTube works on anything. So I get it. And looking at their other original programs that they have out now, like Dr. Death was by the way really good and worth watching. Joshua Jackson was completely transformative in that. Obviously, you look at him, you see it's him, but has he ever played somebody that was a truly unlikable evil person? And he did a good job there, as did the other co-stars. They also have Days of Our Lives Beyond Salem, soap opera limited series. Are you serious? That's what they think is going to get people to watch. The Lost Symbol. Aren't people done with the whole
Da Vinci Code thing?
Yeah. Aren't they kind of tired? Or also, when I look at it, famous people in it. Eddie Izzard. That's it.
There's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
I know. That's it. That's all you got. And then One of Us is Lying. Teen mystery drama. Again, anybody's ever heard of. Peacock, nobody's watching it. Comedy, Saved by the Bell, Punky Brewster, both look terrible. Punky Brewster got canceled after only a couple episodes aired.
I was about to say, yeah, it didn't make it. It's like season 2.
Rutherford Falls, Girls 5 Eva, Girls Forever, 5 Eva. What is that musical comedy based on something?
I don't know.
Yeah, again,
I've never even heard of half these except for Dr. Death and Saved by the Bell. That's the only things I heard about.
Cleopatra in Space, and like these kids shows that were cartoons that they transferred over. They have some unscripted things. The John Wayne Gacy Devil in Disguise was popular. That was a 6-episode crime.
I'm pretty sure that's on Discovery Plus, actually, because I'm pretty sure I got that in my watch list.
I think it has different release in Canada.
Yeah, so yeah, it probably is on Discovery Plus.
And then they've got some reality shows, some variety shows, which nobody's watching. Co-productions that are kids shows that basically all the stuff that used to be on that would have been part of like the Netflix deal, like The Croods or DreamWorks Dragons. Like it's all stuff that used to be Netflix that they brought over that people don't realize they own. The only things that I've wanted to watch that I haven't gotten around to is they're producing more movies for Psych, which was the TV show that ran on the USA Network for 8 years, I think. Really funny detective comedy drama. Bruce Campbell's in an episode where he even plays a deadite, when the one guy's having hallucinations. Like it's really funny. It's well made, and they've decided to bring the show back by doing 1 or 2. I think it's generally 1 or 2 movies, TV movies every 6 months or so. And that's kind of like they used to do. Remember back in the 90s, like a show would end after it's run and they'd have more movies like like Diagnosis Murder, and they'd have like 5 or 6 TV movies that come out after the show ended to fill space on Saturday afternoons or something. Well, that's sort of what they're doing, which is neat. But then you look at that and it's like all the stuff that they've wanted to make, here's what's in development that was supposed to launch when the program, like the original plan was to have some of these ready to go right on the day that the whole service was announced. There's Adventure Zone, Colony 2, Division 1. Where is it here? Oh, is it gone? Let me see here. 1 second. There's some stuff here that I think is upcoming original programming. Law and Order Hate Crimes. That was supposed to be on regular NBC, and it was pulled because they were going to have content and language that was not going to be okay for regular TV. Makes sense. They're trying to be a realistic show based on real things. They're going to have people saying things that you can't say on American network television. That was supposed to come out a year and a half ago, and it's not out yet.
But so yeah, I've heard like nothing about this.
It was paired originally back to back with the one when Stabler came back. They were going to have those on a separate. They wanted to have basically 3 hours of Law and Order in a row. You'd have SVU, you'd have Organized Crime, and Hate Crimes. And Hate Crimes are like, nope, we're going to make that our big blanket show for the new service, and then that hasn't launched yet. Then the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air dramatic remake. Nobody wants to see that.
I'm curious. But I'm also not enough.
It's also not a true story because he didn't like if people are saying this is the Will Smith biography, that's not how he actually grew up.
There's one thing I saw. I saw this on another YouTube channel, and it makes me question certain things. So, as I quoted earlier in the article, Peacock has a very small share of the market. They have a free option.
Yeah.
But you have to put up with ads.
Yeah, and
nobody's even using it. Yeah, like that's
because they don't
really
have programming people wants. What do they have? Friends that's been shown to death on every fucking Netflix channel for 10 years.
They have Friends. They have The Office and something else.
But
I think you can still get The Office in Canada, can't you?
But these things are not off the air. They're not like they should be pulling from their catalog of shows that aren't regularly shown on free television.
Completely agree.
And Bel-Air was renewed for a second season before it's even aired its first. Yet I don't think it's going to last that long. Will Smith isn't the powerhouse he used to be.
No, this isn't the late 90s, early 2000s.
The Joe Exotic biographical drama miniseries, that's going to air on Netflix in Canada, but it's going to air on this service down in the States. They're bringing back New York Undercover. Remember that show?
Nope.
It was crime drama from back in the day.
Vaguely. Now.
The Missing. It used to be called, I think it was like 1-800-MISSING. That was a show in like 20 years ago. They're bringing that back. They're bringing back these dramas that are interesting, but like, really? Queer as Folks being remade. That was in Canada. I think that was a Showtime show in the States. And then in Canada, it was on Showcase or something.
I think it was on Omni. That's where I remember seeing it.
Yeah, they used to air. Yeah, which is kind of funny that they aired that show uncut on Omni, on regular broadcast TV. Vampire Academy. Battlestar Galactica was one thing that they were announcing that was supposed to come out on the day of the service release. And now there's no date. Now they're like 2 years behind on producing the Battlestar Galactica. I have a feeling that the Battlestar Galactica series, they were trying to make it even younger with younger people in it, and they're realizing that none of the sci-fi fans want to see that. Nobody wants to see a gritty remake of a gritty remake. If anything, the show should do one of two things: go in a new direction, or go back to be the nostalgia type sci-fi show of the 70s. And then they're making them a Gruber TV show. That'll be funny, but
if it ever happens,
it's got a series order. It's supposed to come out this year. Then they have a bunch and they're making a TED show, I guess it's based on the teddy bear Seth MacFarlane movie. That's it. They've got like a list of other shows that are not blue linked that have series or pilot orders. They're at a process right now where they should have been 2 years ago, 3 years ago even. They were not ready to move into the digital. Not to mention they spent how much money to purchase the WWE network, and now they have half the subscribers they used to have on the WWE network. It also does not have a pause, fast forward, rewind, chapter selections, or the ability to search for specific matches.
Yeah, they basically broke the entire network. Like, because now it's sorted into seasons, but it doesn't make any sense.
Season 1 is 1993. Tell me how that makes sense. So they're at a point now where they destroyed another network that actually, this is the crazy thing. The WWE network was like 5-6 years old. They had a more mature, better working app and network than Peacock. Why didn't they just use their tech? Instead, they shut them down and took their videos and put it into tech that doesn't work. Now, luckily in Canada, most of these shows have been picked up by other networks because Peacock is not available here. Paramount Plus is in a pared down version that removes a lot of the Star Trek stuff because that's owned by Crave up here. But Peacock is the one service that's not available in Canada that I don't think anybody actually wants anyway. They would rather Amazon or Crave or somebody pick up the shows piecemeal.
Yeah, see, if I could pick 2 services to bring up from the United States, my first pick is Hulu. If I had to pick anything,
which within 2 years will be gone when their contracts are up, because NBC Universal is minority shareholder. They're going to want their shows on Peacock, and 75% of the shows are owned by Disney.
I would also want to bring up HBO Max, but because of Crave, that complicates things.
Yeah, if there was another one that I would want, I'm trying to think of one that is.
There's an anime one you might know what I'm talking about. I think Ken knows about it.
Verve, it's gone. It's
something
dead
like
after
that.
It's being dissolved because Sony owns all the shows now, and we've already got. They're going to be making a new Funimation app, I believe, to incorporate everything. But I'm trying to think. There was a comedy one down there that's gone. We have Shudder. I'm trying to think if there's anyone in the States that's really worth getting that we don't already have, and I think it's just Hulu, and that its days are numbered.
Yeah, I mean, sooner or later we're going to get it, so, or some version of it. I mean, hell, I pay an extra $5 a month to have that rolled into Disney Plus.
Well, half of the stuff already was. Anything that was owned by Fox already is.
Yeah, so
because remember, it was a joint venture between Fox, Disney, and Universal. Well, Fox and Disney are now the same company, and once their contracts are up for that service, they had some shows that were in the works for the last 2 or 3 years. Once those are gone, they're not going to renew the contracts. Why would they have a rival service?
Yeah.
So by 2024, it's really going to be, if this even exists, Peacock will be the only one we can't get.
And by then, who gives a shit?
Yeah, because any of the good shows are going to go to somebody else's network anyway.
Yeah, and they're just encouraging piracy at this point. So
yep, pretty much.
Whatever. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News this week. As always, we do welcome your input. So feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.com. But it's time to take...
.net.
.net.
How did you do that after 15 years?
I know, fuck. So clearly, I need some refreshment, and I'm going to go to my Drinkmate, which is the review we're going to check out right now. This is my review of one of the latest offerings from Drinkmate. We will be back, guys, right after this on This Week in Geek, and I assure you, .net. Hey, guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk about something we got sent for review. Obviously, a review sample was provided to us. I'm going to be talking about the Drinkmate Arctic Blue Beverage Carbonator, which you can pick up on Amazon, but you can also go to their website, which is drinkmate-canada.com for more information. Now, this is kind of interesting because I have reviewed similar beverage carbonators here on the show. I reviewed a SodaStream a number of years ago for one of our holiday gift guides, and we're looking at this also for holiday gift guide consideration, and this is kind of cool. So what this is my wife Blair did some work on this review because she's obviously in the kitchen because I can't fit my wheelchair in there. She gave me her notes on this, and I can't disagree because this is actually more accessible than I thought it would be. So one of the cool things that's really neat about this is that it's easier to use than any of the carbonation machines we've had a chance to experience so far. It's a super easy to install CO2 cartridge that you can order refills online. You can also pick those up in store. There's also a service when you order a refill online. They send you a prepaid packing slip to send back the bottle to be refilled or recycled. Big fan of that. Big fan of always reusing and reducing where you can, reduce your carbon footprint, so to speak, go environment. One of the other things that I also like is that you can literally carbonate anything, as long as it doesn't have pulp. So if you like pulpy orange juice, sorry, you're SOL here, but that's just the way it is. Other units on the market allow you to only carbonate water, so you can kind of experiment with here. Blair did this with a lemonade and an iced tea. That was interesting, and it wasn't that bad either. I really did enjoy this. So you can kind of experiment with this. I'm actually going to experiment with one of my favorite beverages of all time, and that'll be a G Fuel. So we'll see how well that works out for me. We're going to try that a little bit later. Now, we did try some of the available syrups and whatnot. We tried ginger ale and diet root beer. I will say this, the particular brand of diet root beer that we got, with this carbonation machine, it tasted a lot like Mug and tasted a lot like Diet Barks root beer, both of which are remarkably hard to come by in Canada. For whatever reason, this was a nice touch. So if I can bring home this carbonation before I do surgery, I'm all in. Now, this also has a proprietary fizz infuser tech that gives you the freedom to carbonate any beverage. Again, that's not just water, but the juices, cold teas, coffees, wine, cocktails, whatever you want, you can do that. That's really cool. You also don't have to plug this in. That is remarkably useful. It's countertop, it's super portable. If you're in a college dorm room, if counter space is at a premium, then this is actually pretty kick-ass for that. Plus, you don't have to buy the giant bottles of pop from the store anymore. If you only want like a glass or something like that, as long as you have CO2 in the cartridge and the syrup, bingo bango, done. You are good to go. Like I said, I think it's really cool. You can order this mostly from their website or via Amazon. It retails for about $120. Do I think it's worth it? Yeah. I mean, again, it's environmentally friendly, they're easy to refill, and there's a variety of different options out there for you. So the Drinkmate definitely gets a recommendation from us here at This Week in Geek.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
We're back here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I am your well-hydrated host, Mike the Birdman, joined by my equally well-hydrated friend, Alex the producer. All right, so let's start things off with one of the most unusual stories that I came across in the last week or so. This one comes courtesy of SBNation.com, but it was all over Twitter for like a week. A Texas football coach's monkey bit a child and started off the strangest sports story of the year. The monkey, pole assassin, and Halloween have made everything go wild. If you spent any kind of time on the internet in the last 24 hours, you've likely seen some phrases floating around that are utterly mystifying when put together. Monkey bite, special teams coach, and pole assassin. It's like a word cloud from a piece of Harry Potter fanfic. Instead, it's one of the most bizarre and confounding sports stories of the year that keeps getting weirder with each layer of the onion you peel back. It should be noted that at this point, everything in this surreal scenario has been unearthed by internet sleuthing without any official statements at the time. Everyone is just trying to piece this together. I have seen more kind of coverage on this, so I can verify aspects of this. A trick-or-treater was bitten by a monkey at the home of Texas Longhorns special teams coach Jeff Banks. This element of the story first came from Tom Campbell, a sports photographer and Houston native, first gave us the start of the story. And he quotes in his tweet, "I'm hearing a report from a credible source that Texas Longhorns special teams coach Jeff Banks' monkey allegedly attacked and seriously hurt a young trick-or-treater last night on Halloween. The monkey's jaws apparently had to be pried off the small child." This sounds so fantastical it couldn't be real, which is why everyone started to piece together why Banks had a monkey at his home on Halloween and how it could have bitten a child. Then, with some digging, people seem to have found the answer, and it came from Banks' girlfriend, pole assassin, and her performance monkey. Danielle Thomas, a former exotic dancer who once appeared on the Jerry Springer Show, there is footage under the name Pole Assassin, uses a pet monkey named Gia as a part of her act. Thomas calls the monkey her emotional support animal. This weekend, Thomas, who often uses the name Banks on social media, posted on Nextdoor that she was building a haunted house and maze for children on Halloween. Her tweet then reads, "Hey neighbors, I built a haunted house / maze at my house. I'm welcoming all kids Sunday, 7 to 9:30 p.m. Adults are welcome to come tonight. There is a party from 7 till 11 p.m. Swing by." Following the biting incident, Thomas posted a video walking through her backyard showing the lengths any child would have needed to go in order to get to her monkey, saying she took every precaution to ensure it wouldn't be around children, which I can verify from the video is pretty significant for this kid to have done this.
I know it's a different country, but like here, you're not allowed to have exotic animals.
It's strange because it varies from state to state, even from county to county. It can vary because you look at
why would you want an animal that can rip your arms off and tear your face off?
And that's the question that most often gets asked, because male monkeys, if you remember many years ago, Alex, you probably know this, but some of our listeners might not. There was a story 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, where a woman had a monkey, and I think it was a male, and it was going through its mating cycle, and it attacked a woman so badly, it literally ripped her face off. And the sheriffs shot it multiple times, and the woman's friend attacked the monkey with a shovel, and it finally went down after being hit by like shotgun blasts. So it was pretty fucking severe. So anyway, while Thomas deleted her Twitter account in the wake of quote-unquote Monkeygate, the video was saved and reposted by those who saw it. Thomas shows the monkey was far away from the planned maze route, essentially adding the child getting bitten happened because it was their own fault. She quotes, "How can she viciously bite someone if she didn't stick their hand in there where it don't belong? This is her home and her home only. It is already clear as day on the gate, don't touch. Nobody's allowed back there without my permission. Neither Banks nor the Longhorns have commented on the monkey biting a child. Thomas has since deleted all her social media accounts as people trying to learn anything they can about Gia, the biting, and how this all fits together. Just a constant reminder, when sports want to get weird, only college football has the power to give us something like this." And you're right. But like, exotic animals do not belong domesticated. And if I've learned anything from the Tiger King documentary, you don't do this.
I got to pet a baby lion, and that's because the zoo brought it to my school. And when they're babies and they're under control and like they were getting them used to people, like you couldn't let them just be loose or they'd go nuts. But like, at least that is a cat. And I know if you go down the genealogy, they're very different animals. And the modern house cat is a descendant of a specific splinter of the genus. Great. But it's still, a cat is a cat. And when I got to pet the cat, he put his head on my knees and fell asleep while purring. And I was like, it's just a giant cat. A giant cat that when it gets angry could kill you, and probably would. So,
giant murder mittens, as we often call them.
So like it was purring to the point where they put the microphone for the when they're like, here, there was basically about like how to treat animals and all this, and you don't make loud noises. They put the microphone below the cat so you could hear it purring through the PA system. And I'm sitting there just petting this kitty cat, and this kitty cat who's like the size of a Great Dane, and it's a baby lion, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, okay, this is cool, but like a monkey, no. They're not domesticated. Like they're smart. A gorilla, even, like you can have cases where people have lived with gorillas. For instance, Coco. Coco is not going to hurt anybody unless somebody was hurting Coco or somebody was hurting Coco's friends. Yeah, but that's an ape. That's a great ape. Great apes, if in the right conditions, they're still going to be wild, but they're intelligent enough that you can actually communicate with them. A monkey is a different story. A monkey is a lot. They're clever, but they don't have the.
Monkeys can be trained, but do they have the cognitive ability?
They don't view things through the same lens that a great ape does.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like a great ape would maybe attack and all that if you had to cage, but at the same time, a great ape would be more, if you did teach it sign and it was a really intelligent one like Coco, it would be more inquisitive and be like, why are you coming near me? Please go away. It would give you warnings, but not a caged monkey who sees a threat coming into it. Especially if this kid is wearing a costume. What if the kid looks like a monster and it's reaching its hand into its cage thinking it's going to attack? So, I mean, you should not have had that at your home. If this lady is crazy to think that. Also, her dancer name was Pole Assassin.
That's a hell of a name.
I know it's in reference to the stripper pole, but the double entendre there is don't go near her. Let's be real. What's your name? Pole Assassin. No, thanks. I'll pay for a different girl.
Yeah, thank you. It has been fun.
I would like to be able to walk straight and the next day, or not worry about burning when I pee if I go near. What's stripper? Pole assassin. That's like, oh, okay, well, what's that stripper's name? Crotch burner. No, thank you.
Yeah, it's
No thanks.
I mean, obviously, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting world that we most certainly live in.
Sorry, what state was it again?
This was in Texas.
See, if it was Florida, it would have been better. In Florida,
Florida man or Florida woman in this case.
The answer in Florida, it would have been the ape got out, grabbed somebody's gun, and started firing back.
It wouldn't surprise me at this point. It really wouldn't. However, keeping on with our theme of, unfortunately, animal attacks, this one comes courtesy of 9.news.com.au. So this is
Australia.
Australia.
So Australia. We got Australian listeners. I was going to say Australia, the Florida of the world.
But we do have a friend out there. One of the first
Yes.
Twig fans, Luke, is the guy I first connected with.
But I mean, Florida as in not the people are crazy. Florida as in everything around you, just like Florida and Louisiana, all the animals want to kill you.
Oh, yeah. So this story goes on. A man has reportedly died in Brazil after jumping into a lake to escape bees, only to drown and to be eaten by piranhas. The 30-year-old was fishing with friends when he jumped into a farm lake in the municipality of Brasilândia de Minas on Sunday, according to the local fire department. A firefighter who performed the rescue said the carnivorous fish had disfigured the man's face and other parts of his body. His body was found 4 meters from the shore. It is not yet known if the attack came before or after the man's death. The man's friend also jumped in the water to save him, but swam to safety. There are about 30 piranha species in the world. All live in the South America's Amazon River basin. However, fatal attacks on humans are relatively rare. So what it sounds like to me, the guy drowned trying to escape these bees, and then when he died, then the piranhas kind of feasted on him. Now, I heard a story today, and I can't verify its total authenticity, but if you remember how we've all heard the tales of the man-eating piranha and all that shit, and you think of that show that's on Netflix or wherever, River Monsters, piranhas are not something you want to fuck around with. But I remember the story that was told that when Teddy Roosevelt visited South America at some point, there was like a school of piranha that had been starved for a really, really, really long time. And then they dropped like a goat in, and it didn't end too well for the goat.
Yeah. A little bit like the ill-tempered sea bass from Austin Powers.
Yeah, like it's so strange and unusual to think that something so small can be so deadly. But I remember as a child, the local video store that was beside the Harley Davidson dealership, which evidently is world famous from what I hear, the one that was in my old hometown, they had a piranha tank.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I remember this. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I was renting Nintendo games from down there. And I asked if they could feed the piranha in front of me because I had this huge fish tank, and they did it. And I'd never seen an animal move so quick in water. I was like, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" Again, 5 years old, but I was like, "Wow!" And then obviously, I've watched a lot of documentaries on these creatures, and like I said, they're nothing to fuck with, but kind of a horrible way to die. I mean, obviously you drown, and that's a personal terrifying fear of mine, but then to have your face eaten by these things.
Now, and the bees, here's a question: were they those crazy
killer bees?
Not just killer bees, those giant ones. I can understand it, but regular bees, unless you are somebody who's allergic, bees don't want to be around you. They'd rather leave.
Yeah, it all depends, because if they were fishing, maybe they smelled food in the boat and they frenzied.
Or if they had fruit drinks out or sugar out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many different things that could have happened there.
Except for garbage bees. I hate those little bastards can die in a fire.
Yeah,
Garbage
the ones that The ones
Yellow
that always
jack-
hang around. Yeah.
Yeah, yellow jackets, bumblebees. Those guys
don't
are
mind.
awesome. Those guys, they like to get drunk on the nectar later on in the year, and they fly around, and they can land on your finger. That you can swat them, get away from it. You can flick them with your finger, and they won't sting you because they're too drunk.
Yeah. Like honestly, a bumblebee will not bother you unless you bother it. And
Like
actually,
unless you screw up with its nest, and at the in October, November, when they're just before they disappear, when it gets too cold,
they're so low energy.
and they get so drunk, legitimately, they get drunk on the nectar that's fermenting. That that's why they fly around. They're like, why are they all zigzagging and barely able to fly? It's because they gotten so fat from drinking all the nectar, and they just get away from me, flick, and you can flick them right into the air.
It was cool. There's a girl that used to live in my apartment building. She was actually a bee researcher for the government of Ontario, and I learned all these really cool things about bees and migrations and their importance to the pollination cycle. And I always thought that was really fascinating, how such a small creature can have such a big influence on the biosphere that you live in. So obviously respect bumblebees. That's not the point here. But if you happen to go down to South America,
respect bumblebees because they're the great pollinators, and respect honeybees because they're very important to our ecosystem.
Yeah, we need them.
But screw hornets, yellow jackets, wasps. All those suckers can die.
Yeah, however, though, if you folks do decide to go down to South America and decide to go swimming in open areas, be remarkably careful, read local signs, talk to people, know what you're doing. I know we have a former TWIG crew member who spent some time in South America. My sister Katie spent some time in the Amazon, and that's a lot of nope from me. So, final story this week. This one comes courtesy of blog.to, and I got to send a huge shout out to my roommate / sister Shannon, who found this story. So according to this story, thieves penetrate gated Ontario property to steal $90,000 worth of condoms. Ontario Provincial Police are looking...
Can we take a moment to sit back and just clap for whoever wrote that blog.to post title? Can you read it again slowly?
Thieves penetrate gated
there we
Ontario
go.
property.
There we go. You win. Mwah. You win the internet for today. Thank you, Lauren O'Neill, who posted that.
Ontario Provincial Police are looking for at least 2 suspects who early this morning busted into a rural property roughly 2 hours west of Toronto and stole a truck containing some $90,000 worth of condoms and accessories. Investigators from the Oxford detachment of the OPP say they first received a theft report from an unspecified address on Road 66 in Zora Township around 5:30 a.m. on Friday morning. The property was accessed by breaking through a fence, according to police. Once they had entered, investigators say a number of unknowns proceeded to damage several vehicles that were parked at the site. A 2018 white freight CAS truck with the Nova Scotia license plate, I'm not going to read it, and a white 2019 Van R XP trailer with Ontario license plate, not going to read it, loaded with over $90,000 worth of Skin brand condoms and accessories were stolen, said police. Skin condoms, blog.to has learned via Google and the New York Times, seriously, are specialized non-latex prophylactics that are made more expensive than regular condoms. They fall under the lifestyle brand umbrella, which means they were born in Australia but sold to a Chinese conglomerate in 2017. And an Amazon description for the product claims they easily stretch and conform to your shape so they are comfortable to use, but it couldn't have been too comfortable obtaining the truck by the sounds of it. No suspects have been apprehended, and the crooks are all likely hoping to get lucky by evading police altogether. Not so fast, bad boys or girls. Surveillance footage is currently being reviewed, and police are appealing to members of the public for helping identify the suspects. And then there's information to call Crime Stoppers. Conversely, anyone getting busy in the city this weekend should keep an eye out for people with unusual amounts of Skin brand condoms on their person, unless that person is Pete Davidson, which makes sense, even though some people think that doesn't make sense. It makes sense. See, this is the weird thing. Now, I thought when they stole this truck I remember a friend of mine and his girlfriend at the time could only use a specific brand of condom because they were allergic, because some people have an allergic to latex, for example.
There can be allergies associated with latex. Also,
The lubrication.
There can also be a religious aspects.
I think so.
I know that originally, before the latex condom, back in the day, they were sheepskin. Well, it was like intestines, byproducts mixed with it, to make the case. It was basically like sausage casing.
Yeah.
And there were people that couldn't because of certain religious things. If it came from a certain animal, it could be like, if it came from a pig or something, you can't have it because you're Jewish, or you're Islamic halal, kosher, that sort of stuff. So there were reasons beyond just the I'm allergic or my religion says I can't. Like there were reasons for that. I think that might still be the case. I think latex is the major one, is allergies to latex, and then you have to find a product that is similar with similar strength that also has the prophylactic in it. So it's interesting. So is there money to be made in this, you think?
See, I'd like to know, how are you going to fence that amount of material that is, number one, a highly unusual commodity. Number two, people now know about it, so it's hot. And number three, how do you approach someone with said stolen goods and say, hey, Mr. Johnson, we'll call him.
Question. Could the product be unimportant, and could it be that they stole the truck because they wanted the truck?
Maybe for insurance purposes. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the products got dumped somewhere.
Or was there something else in the boxes?
That's another reason. That's another thing too, because Southern Ontario, for example, if it's hard to believe, but we do have a fairly strong organized crime presence in Ontario.
There's Russian connected mafia.
Italian.
The Italian mafia is not so much connected directly to the New York families. They're connected to the Montreal families, which people always talk about, the 5 families or whatever in the States. There was a 6th family that dealt with Montreal for years. We're talking since the early 30s. Montreal was where the families would connect to get things done in Canada. And they had their reaches went somewhere into the East Coast, but it was basically Montreal to like Windsor. They controlled a lot of the trade lines and trade routes. So you got the Italians, you got the Russians, and more recently you have other groups moving in from other countries, but also fentanyl trade.
Yeah,
I would wonder if there was stuff, whether or not the company knew it was in there. Maybe the driver did, and that there could be pills or things or powder packed in some of the boxes, because it's such an odd thing to happen. And there's been some pretty high profile busts of fentanyl up here. It's either going to be fentanyl or meth if they find anything in there.
Yeah, or maybe someone took the trucks for parts to take them to like a local kind of chop shop.
But again, it seems too high profile.
Yeah, it's something so weird
there's not enough value in the products within the vehicle. The vehicle itself is either worth more money, or there's something else in the vehicle worth more money that they're not on the manifest.
Yeah, like something weird is definitely happening. That is for sure. So that's pretty much all I got this week in terms of the weird news. We're going to hear from me one more goddamn time for reviews this week. And we're going to take a look at the Jackbox Party Pack. This is the 8th version. This is on the PlayStation 5. And, well, we'll let my review kind of speak for itself. I did play this with Alex and Liam and Blair and Shannon a couple weeks ago. So take a listen to this. And when we come back, we'll close up the show and kind of give you an idea of what's going to be going on for next week.
It's time to check in to the party where everyone's invited, because it's time for the Jackbox Party Pack 8. Serving up 5 sweet new party games that'll leave you hungry for more.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I've got another video game review for you here on the show. So we got sent a review code for Jackbox Party Pack 8. This was provided to us by Jackbox Games. A review code was provided for us on the PlayStation 5. First time I've actually reviewed this game on a PlayStation platform, but it really doesn't matter. So, anyway, what is Jackbox? Well, it's a collection of mini games that are usually meant for 2 to like 8 to 10 people or more, and you can stream these games on Twitch. Some of them go for downright hilarity, some of them are really weird, and, you know, this year is no exception. Although this year, I will come out and say right out of the gate, I was not very much into this year. So you are getting a couple of different ones. This year you get a game called Drawful, which is like a sequel to the old Drawful game, except you're drawing 2 frames of animation. That's for 3 to 10 players. You're getting the Wheel of Enormous Proportions. It's a good way to think of it. It's like trivia with like weird random stuff happening. My favorite of the bunch is Job, which is like Mad Libs, where they ask you icebreaker interview questions, and you have to answer, you know, as long as you want with like, I think like 100 characters or something like that, but they want you to use a lot of verbs and adjectives, and it can get quite offensive quite fast. The other one is Pole Mine, where you're basically trapped in a dungeon, and you have to rank things on a list. Sometimes you're going from best to worst, or worst to best, or, you know, it's a little weird. That one I didn't much care for. The one that I absolutely hated was Weapons Drawn. It's this weird social game that requires 4 players at minimum. You can't start the game without it. And you would have like a calling card, which is here, draw the letter A. Like, this is the prompt I got. Draw the letter A and hide it in a squirting flower or a birthday cake. And then each of you is a detective and simultaneously a murderer. We hated this game. My God, did we hate this one. And that just kind of soured a lot of the experiences. Now, we started our playthrough by going through, we started with the Wheel of Enormous Proportions, and that was fine, though my friend Liam won, and we're not quite sure how. Some of the questions were really involved, like, name as many countries in the Ottoman Empire previous to such and such a date. And we're like, I might know this. So we did that one, and that was okay. It asks you to ask a question of the Wheel of Enormous Proportions. The question doesn't matter. Liam had asked, when should I get one of those fancy blenders? And the game actually gave a reasonable response. I'm pretty sure I took a screenshot of it and posted it on Twitter. The next one we did was Drawful Animate. Like I said, you have to draw 2 frames of animation from a prompt. We tried one of the themed ones. We did one for horror movies, which was made sense for, you know, this time of year, and we just got frustrated doing it just because trying to draw 2 frames of animation on a phone. Now, I was using a iPhone 12 Pro. My wife was on a iPhone 13, and my friend Liam was playing, I think, on a fairly recent Galaxy phone. And we found it difficult. It wasn't fun. So absurdity just kind of set in when we clearly just didn't care. Job was the most fun we had. Like, we've played it a few times now. We actually did it for my birthday on the 20th the other day, and we had a lot of fun. A lot of really messed up words were used, so that was kind of funny there. And then all of us got frustrated at Pole Mine. We played that with 3 people. But that game finished really quickly, and that's a social game where you have to talk back and forth with your partner. It's not good with 3 people. The more people you have, the better there. So you can actually, you know, debate things. But if you want to be the lone wolf, you can kind of do that too. And then, like I said, the last one was Weapons Drawn. We hated it, flat out hated it. It's complicated. I've read other people's reviews of it, and I can't disagree. You have to explain the rules a few times to really even kind of get it. But when you're not having a good time within the first few minutes of a game, that's not a good portent for a party game, at the very least. So we're like, eh. So we just kind of gave up on it. However, though, this year does have a standout in Job. that's a lot of fun. Like, I can't believe how much fun we had there. Like, if I had to rank the games this year in terms of being fun, Job is a standout. So we go Job, Wheel of Enormous Proportions, because that can be fun if a little goofy. Drawful Animate. Again, if you're somewhat talented, an artist, you can have some fun here. And the last one being Weapons Drawn. This is the only year I'm actually not going to recommend you pick up Jackbox Party Pack 8. I know I'm alone in this, just looking at, like I said, other people's reviews. I'm thinking, did we play the same game? But I don't know. I played this with a room of people that were all in a really good mood. The fact that Jackbox has a player requirement for one of the games where you can't start it unless you have 4 people, that was a big turnoff. One of the things I am, though, happy, though, that there is a streamer mode kind of built into this where you can, if people want to play, they have to be logged in the Twitch. You can hide the room code. You can turn on family-friendly filters. You can turn on subtitles. You can make the backgrounds less animated, though jobs are fantastic. And there are some nice accessibility options there, and I was really pleased to see that. So, unfortunately, and I do mean this with a really heavy heart, because I really love this series, Jackbox Party Pack 8 gets a maybe wait for a price drop, or if the games become available individually, you could pick up Job, which I'm sure you could at some point, but I don't know. Like I said, that's our review of Jackbox Party Pack 8. Give it a pass for right now. Okay, folks, well, that has been our show for this Indigenous Veterans Day, otherwise known as Monday, October. What is today?
But for you, or
the
for
8th,
me, it was
Tuesday. It was
Tuesday.
Monday.
I'm not trying to downplay what you're saying. Just that's what it sounded like for a second.
Yeah,
there.
I always forget the date. I always remember today's International Secretary's Day, Sister's Day. That I remember, but the actual calendar day, I get those mixed up. Figure that one out. So anyway, folks, we got some kind of semi-important announcements this week. So anyway, this Thursday, my wife is going in for the same bariatric surgery that Alex has had, and the one I'm going to have sometime in the new year. However, my surgery has been delayed because I need to lose a little bit more weight to loosen the fat up so the instruments don't get bent.
It's not just that. You got to look at, they go based on your surgery. They have to be more careful with.
Yeah, because I'm a complicated case.
You're at a higher risk than she is. She's also your primary person at home to help you, so it makes sense for you guys not to get it right back to back.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea from the surgical team was to allow a minimum 6 to 8 weeks for Blair to heal, and then we talk about me. I'm at least 4 or 5 months out minimum, which is fine.
One advantage there is she will be in the all clear by then completely. She'll probably even be at a better weight than she was expecting and have more energy anyway, so it'll be double beneficial.
Yeah. So she goes in Thursday morning at 6 a.m., which means I'm going to be a nervous wreck for most of Thursday. However,
so what you're saying is you want me to play games with you during the day?
I'm probably going to be playing games of some kind, just ignoring the world. So hopefully things go well.
So a warning to everybody, if you see weird tweets, it's because he's worried.
Yeah. So that happens Thursday morning. So anyway, guys, any good vibes would be appreciated. I have smudged on her behalf. She's done it too. And that means next weekend I will not be on the show, but you will hear my voice in terms of several different reviews. Thankfully, Alex and I are weeks ahead in certain review aspects right now. Like, I've got a bunch of things from Hasbro, a bunch of things from Wizards of the Coast, and I've got some stuff coming up that I recorded with Aaron this past week. So you'll be hearing that throughout the week. So that also brings up that we've recorded our first introductory episode where we talk about all the characters of Stargate, which is a project we've been talking about for almost a year. now things are moving. The first record session is not this weekend, but the following weekend. Episodes of that will start coming out in December to fill the gap while me and Alex take a break until the second or third week of January. And then we'll just kind of play things out there. We'll explain a lot more in the episode, but there's kind of the gist of things going forward for right now. As we have been talking about, next, we are going to be having an extended review and discussion of Call of Duty Vanguard on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X between me, Alex, and Liam. That idea is to record next Monday and have that out probably Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. The goal is Alex and Liam have finished the campaign. I'm trying to prestige in multiplayer and trying to finish the battle pass because I know the campaign can be completed in a very short amount of time.
And we're all going to do a few sessions, a few different night sessions of zombies together, which is what we did with the previous game.
Yeah, so we are getting a feel for all aspects for it. Now that Liam is sort of our zombies expert, I'm the multiplayer expert, and Alex is the casual every person. We now have multiple perspectives.
I'm the casual person, but also I'm the guy. I am that player, that like 5% of the players that is primarily interested in the single player campaigns.
Yeah, which used to be me once upon a time until I became a multiplayer guy.
So I get the feeling that a lot of people doing reviews of these games don't even focus on that anymore.
Yeah,
and I like to pursue that perspective because that's the kind of game I like to play. I am only playing online with my direct friends. I am not a regular versus everybody multiplayer kind of guy. So you're going to get a different perspective from me than you would from a lot of people that do videos online.
Yeah, in fact, I made the mistake of talking in a public lobby. Let's just say it went about as well as you think it would.
Let me guess. The words were racism, bigotry, sexism, racism,
and I suck.
all from either a voice that sounds like it's 10 years old or a voice that sounds like it's a voice that's 30 something years old, but it's talking like a 10-year-old bigot.
Yeah, so that was a good time.
There you go.
Yeah, good times had by all. So that'll be coming out next week. I am recording some more stuff with Nerd to the Third Power as their show starts to wind down for the year. I should be doing at least one more show with Skyblaze before the holidays are fully upon us. I know American Thanksgiving is rapidly approaching, and I know Alex and I had talked about maybe doing some small Black Friday coverage because we are still in a pandemic. A lot of digital stuff is where you should be going.
Yeah. Whether that ends up being a separate show, it might be if we get more than 20 minutes to talk about it, probably. If not, it would be on the regular show before that weekend. We'll have because they'll have
the flyers will be out by then.
The flyers and the gift and the early gifts ideas will start to be flourishing around that time. So either beforehand or just a couple days before, we might cover some of the bigger things.
Yeah, so look forward to that. So anyway, folks, like I said, hopefully I will be back the week after next with some good news from Blair. Like I said, if you want to follow my socials, at BirdmanDodd on Twitter and Instagram. I am on TikTok, but I'm not really using it so much. I use it to watch a bird named Hamlet, who I really, really like because he's hilarious. But yeah, so and anyway, folks, thank you for joining us this week. It's going to be interesting as we move forward into the holiday season, as we approach the second year of COVID Christmas, and as things begin to open up. If you happen to be
this year, though, we'll be able to actually visit before Christmas, whereas we were shut down as a province completely a month beforehand last time.
Yeah. So as always, folks, be safe. Get vaccinated. Booster shots are being talked about. I'm looking into mine, but I can't get mine for a few months because I didn't get my vaccine until July.
Yeah,
so
right now, provincially, it's anybody over 70 or anybody that is severely immunocompromised with like cancer treatments, that sort of stuff. I think the talk is January when it opens to everybody else after Christmas.
For me, I'm included in the first wave because I'm Indigenous.
Oh, that's correct. That's right. But I think, yeah, you're right. You could get it, but you still have to have waited a few months between.
Yes.
I don't know when did you get your second shot?
6 months. I actually asked the pharmacist when I was when I was at Walmart the other day.
So so you're like January probably.
Yeah. So folks, do your part. be safe as much as you can. I know holidays are coming up, and that's a big reason to gather with family, but be safe. We don't want to have any more bad experiences if we can avoid it. So until next time, for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. Please get vaccinated, and we will catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.